Look inside yourself, Rosemary.
So what we have here is Mark Carney answering questions in Britain after his meeting with the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, and specifically, let me set the scene here for a bit. Mark Carney has been getting many questions about his assets. His assets, which have been of high contention among the Canadian people, because some believe that his associations previously, before getting into politics about a month ago, might bring him into some conflicts with uh, actually doing the job of prime minister, because he has a lot of financial interests in many places. He has interests in Brookfield, he has interests in the UN and WEF, and I mean many places. So I expect him to have a pretty penny right there. But once he's been asked questions about these, you know, the blind trusts over the past couple of days now, even I think several reporters have asked him these questions and related to the trust. Instead of answering it like a normal person would, he gets very, fiery, very angry, and you can see that he has a very noticeable irritation on his face. And I want you to watch the following video of him being asked this question today, and just look at the arrogance and the demeanor he talks to the reporter with. It almost borderline looks like a misogynistic uh, answer, the way he's talking to the reporter. So here, go ahead and watch this.
Attorney Stephanie Levitz, the Globe and Mail. We understand that you have now placed your assets in a blind trust, so you
Yes.
don't know what's happening to them going forward. Rules say that those assets should be publicly disclosed within 120 days, which means you'll campaign in a coming federal election, most likely within the next 120 days, and are serving as Prime Minister now, with Canadians not being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you sought to avoid.
What possible conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Point final.
Are you saying you are not open to any conflict of interest?
Yes.
Someone who spent most of his life in the private sector. There's no possible conflict of interest in your assets. It's very difficult to believe.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary. I mean, you start from a prior of conflict and ill will. I have served in the private sector. I have stood up for Canada. I have left my roles in the private sector at a time of crisis for our country. I'm complying with all the rules. Your line of questioning is trying to invent new rules. I'm complying with the rules that Parliament has laid out and the responsibilities of the Ethics Commissioner. And I will continue to comply with those rules.
So as you can see at the end of the video here, near the end of the last 30 seconds of the interview, he has a sort of little bit of a personal issue with the reporter, telling the I believe her name is Stephanie, the reporter, to look within herself or something. Some weird, he's taking it very personally. He makes weird comments like that when you're the prime minister. You're supposed to be professional. You're supposed to expect that you're going to get questions that might not be in your best interests or that might hurt your feelings a little bit. But maybe it's for a good reason, because you're actually probably hiding something. Because if you're answering it with such offense and taking it so personally, like your ego has just been attacked, I believe in that way, then maybe there is questions that should be asked. Maybe there is something behind that. I know you're a finance guy, Mr. Carney, but you're not a psychologist. And anybody with a basic understanding of psychology sees that the defensive behavior you take on is definitely pointing to something potentially very nefarious. On top of that, we can also see that the way he talks to the reporter, it's like he's taking that offense to what the reporter is saying. But these are legitimate questions. They can be asked to anybody with a sort of a reputable private sector background in politics. It's been asked many times before to many different people across the world and across political spectrums. It's not personal, but he's taking it personally. Why? Because he's arrogant. He's arrogant. He thinks he's better than people, and he thinks that once he does something, like he follows the so-called rules, that somehow um, makes him what's the proper word for it? Absolved of any, criticism or scrutiny from anyone. And now he's finding out that's not the case, and he's taking it very, very hard to the back. Justin Trudeau, he had a good thing, is that whenever he got a really bad comment, or he ever got a hard question, he'd always know how to deflect it perfectly. And on top of that, he would never, he would have sort of a arrogant trolling behavior to it. If somebody called him a swear word, he would smile and wave to them. Okay, even though you could tell it probably hit him pretty hard, he just has this response. He had a very curated public image. Carney, he's not been trained. He hasn't been trained on how to act with the public, how to act with media or whatnot. His experience in the banks and UN and WEF, they've all been premeditated questions that come from the reporters. Very, very easy stuff. Now he's getting a bit of heat and he's already crumbling. He said the previous thing about the carbon tax. He removed the consumer carbon tax 2 days ago and now he's already bringing it back. Is he trying to set himself up for failure, or is he trying to set the Canadian people up? Manipulate us into thinking that he's acting in the best interests of us. I am, of course, no fan of the Liberal Party or Carney at this time. I feel they are still very arrogant. The caucus is the exact same. The people in the party are the exact same. The attitudes and the behaviors, they aren't like the old Liberal Party of before, of Chrétien, or even Pierre Trudeau. More so Chrétien, I would say, was the more better Liberal Party that was more center. They're still thinking they're better than others. They're still very, very left wing in terms of their thinking, more so than they need to be. And they think that they can just be like royalty among the people. But of course, that's not how things are. And of course, you have to be of the people for the people. Carney is not of the people. He's gone to Europe 2 days after he just came into office. He's been in Europe for 3 days almost. Or 2 days almost. It's like he doesn't even know what or the attitudes are of Canadians like me and you, or who are on the streets, students, workers, factory workers. He doesn't have that idea. He hasn't come from that background. He's been working in high and flying financial institutions for 30 plus years. What does he know about Canada? What does he know about the Canadian people except what he sees through the financial reports and through his rich friends that come out of Canada to Europe? Because he's lived in Europe most of his life. He isn't there. He hasn't been there. He isn't of us. He shouldn't be leading us. We need an election now. An election needs to happen, and he isn't calling it. This is what you can expect for the next 4 years if you choose to vote for the Liberal Party. More smoke and mirrors, more issues, more contention, more division, and more of the same attitude of I am holier than thou. That's what I have to say for now. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. And please remember to leave a comment down below, subscribe, and share this video. We are coming into an election cycle. Probably, honestly, with Carney's behavior, it seems like we will never get there, but he has to call an election. He can't just keep on blocking the people's right to vote. It's time for an election. But as we go into an election cycle, show your support to this channel. It's more vital than ever to give voices to the contrarians instead of just giving the same power and leeway to the mainstream. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day.